Welcome to Deseret News Rewind. Dusty Litster and Dane Stewart, as always, presented by Highland Associates, brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard, and we're outfitted by Black Clover.
Yeah, that's right, Dusty. And hey, we've talked about promotion for all of our friends here on Deseret News Rewind, but we got a special opportunity coming up for you. This Thursday, the tent sale at Black Clover. They're just off of 123rd South in Draper, next to the water park. You can get up to 50% off all the Black Clover line. Make sure you get there Thursday for that tent sale at Black Clover, again, just off 123rd South, next to the water park in Draper.
Absolutely. And now it goes from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So all day long, go stop by there, let them know that we sent you. Might hook you up with something a little extra too. So, but you see all the polos and stuff we're wearing, get all that stuff hooked up, but let them know that Deseret News Rewind sent you there, and it'll help us out, help them out, and you get some great gear. Well, let's go through this. We're talking about the 4A state tournament. We got you through the semifinals, through the championships here on Deseret News Rewind on the 4A state tournament. We're excited. Next week will be the semifinals, but this week, however, we got some really big matchups. And what we thought we would do, even though we picked this bracket, give us a chance to make a save. Hey, maybe we didn't pick a game right. Give us a chance to see if we actually believe what we picked. And so, Dane, to waste no time, let's go through it. We'll go top left, which we always do. Both of us, we got to decide if we want to do this. Skyview taking on Cedar City. Cedar City absolutely took it to Dixie last week, and now they get a chance to go travel to Cache Valley and take on the Bobcats at Skyview.
Yeah, hey, first of all, Cedar City, so sorry. Man, we absolutely looked over you on that one. What a win in the second round for the Reds. I hope it was a great week because, as Dusty Lister likes to say, that bus ride ain't going to be fun. You're going up into the cold. It's going to be cold this weekend. And, hopefully they get up there before the storm comes in and the real cold stuff gets here. But I'm going to go with Skyview. This is a team that I picked to make a deep run. I think they're still really strong. You have Carlson there who's playing really well right now. Obviously, Larson, he's been on our top 5 plays regularly over the course of the year. I think this Bobcat matchup, that offense has so many weapons. I think it's going to be tough for Cedar in this quarterfinal.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go take on Dixie that's replacing a bunch of talent that they've had. I mean, Reggie Graff was, 90% of their offense the last few years. It's another one to go up to go take on Carlson, Larson, and all those weapons that Skyview has, and they just took it to Desert Hills too. They're kind of going through the Region 9 gauntlet, if you will. You speak of Skyview. I'm with you. I'm not going off Skyview. They're the reigning 4A champion. I'm not changing that one whatsoever. I'll go stay with the Bobcats. Here's one that actually I think both of us have here. Ridgeline versus Park City.
Yeah, we do, but we had some differences coming out of this one, Dusty. Look, I'm still a believer in Park City, and you got Tabarachi, young man that plays all over the field, and I love they put out a highlight film of him this week on Twitter. That kid is making plays offensively, defensively. Love what he has brought to Park City this year. Not just him. They got a number of kids. And the thing I love about this team is they've been to the championship game just last year, and so they know what it's like to play in these pressure moments. Now, look, they're going to have to be sharp. They're going on the road, maybe one of the few that the weather won't have an impact on, going up to Ridgeline. But, this Ridgeline team, they absolutely hung with Skyview. This is going to be as good of a test as Park City can expect outside of the Skyview Bobcats. They're going to have to come ready to play. But, look, I'm going for the old Miners of Silver from Park City. Go pick them. I got Park City.
Yeah, well, you talk about it. You're going to have the weather at in Smithfield. Ridgeline's not that far away from there, but I'm going to ride with DeMooney. I mean, DeMooney is one of the better players in the state. Lavani DeMooney's older brother plays at Stanford. By the way, you understand we got some family. We're going to have a good athlete coming out of there. Taylor Moyaki and Lavani DeMooney going to come together. Congratulations. We learned that from the Moyaki's dad. But anyway, thus I digress. Ridgeline's really, really good. This game's going to be low scoring. If it's not Ridgeline running away, this game's going to be low scoring. They did it to Skyview. I think they're going to do it again to Park City. They're going to lock them up. They're going to make them play their football. And I know the Miners are going to be willing to step up to that task. I just don't know if they've got enough. I'm staying with Ridgeline. I really believe in the Riverhawks. I think they got a lot of good things going on. That takes us to the other side, and a game that I'm half tempted to go drive to St. George to go do this game, and that is Stansbury at Snow Canyon. This game is Stansbury only plays high-scoring games. So this game's going to be high-scoring. This is going to be a lot of fun.
You want to, Dusty? Look, I'll pack up the car, man. Gas is on me. Let's do it, huh? I'll tell you what. This is going to be an absolute fun. It'd be awesome. This is going to be an absolute barn burner of a ball game. And we were talking about this in our schedule video, and I said how good Crew Huxford has been. He continues to be. They just dropped 63 on Mountain View, and I know that Mountain View. Most other weeks they score 49. They're walking out there with a W, but they could not slow down this Stansbury offense. I think that defense. I know they gave up 49 as well. They're going to have to make a couple plays against this Snow Canyon offense. Fry and company so talented. They're going to have to find some way to slow them up. But for me, the question is, what does that Snow Canyon defense have to try to limit the effectiveness of Stansbury? I know they were solid in region play, but there aren't a lot of offenses in 4A like we've seen from Stansbury this year. Just ask Pineview. I got the Stallions. That's who I picked in our schedule video. I'm still riding with Crew Huxford and company.
Yeah, Lannon Fry, I mean, look, every week for Snow Canyon, it's somebody new. And last week it was Hickman. Hickman had a blocked field goal and then a touchdown in one series. I mean, he gets all over the place in that game. There's always someone new, but the one constant every single week is Lannon Fry. We started the year talking about Snow Canyon. We talked about Bonneville and 5A, some of these other schools. And Snow Canyon absolutely lived up to the billing. I'm staying with the Warriors. I know how hard it is to go into Santa Clara and win. 0-2. Carbon does that a lot. But either way, we were 0-2. I'm riding in the playoffs, no less. So I'm going to stick with the Warriors on this one. Just don't wear the Notre Dame unis. Put on the black and green, not the navy. Come on. So can you just listen to me? Black and green, you're taking care of business.
If there's anything we've learned from Dusty Litster, you got to have the right jersey combination on any given week to give yourself a shot on a Friday night. So no, I think this is going to be an absolute barn burner. I do think this is probably the game to watch this week. And I have to apologize. I said Snow Canyon was the region champs. They were not that.
They were not
that region champ. Still coming up. But, this team put up 35 against Logan. They're going to have to score more than 35, I think, in order to get a win. Stansbury has scored more than 49 points for 4 straight weeks, Dusty. I'm going to rely on that Snow Canyon defense.
Going to have to be. That game's going to be awesome. I'm half tempted now to maybe say, hey, maybe we should drive down on Thursday. But we'll be there the next 2 weeks. We're going to get our fill of St. George here in the next month. All right, Pineview and the Cardiac Bears, the Bear River Bears, driving down to Pineview.
Yeah, a matchup I had in my bracketology. And, boy, I mean, you talk about the Cardiac Bears. Dusty, how many games did come down to the last possession one way or the other for Bear River this year? And, they got a great second-round win over Green Canyon. A little bit of revenge over an earlier loss this season. But that said, they're going up against a really strong Pineview team. And, for me, I didn't expect to see Pineview be this good this year, having just graduated – their quarterback last year who accounted for, 7,000 yards or something like that his senior year. But what a year it's been for the Panthers. I think Bear River, the luck runs out this week. Hurts my heart to say it because I love Garland, Utah. But I'm going to go with Pineview.
Yeah, so this goes all the way back. If I have right, the last time Bear River and Pineview played, and I'm just going through real quick just to double-check myself because I had this note written down, 2004 in the 3A state championship game. And it was the Bears taking care of business against James Lark and Pineview, 47-14. Remember, Pineview played the semifinal game in St. George because it was a St. George matchup. Then came up to the big house at Rice Stadium, and the Bears absolutely laid it to them. Got to put that one in there for you, Coach Hosna, because I'm sticking with Pineview. I have the Panthers, and I've gotten to watch a ton of Bear River games, and maybe me not picking them is going to help them because I stayed with them last week, thought they'd get it done. But, I think the luck runs out on this one. And I'm going to go Pineview, getting to the semifinals. So now we have 4A taken care of. Let's go look at the 5A bracket. And, Dane, this one's really interesting because I think both of us struggled in making this pick. I'm curious to see if you change your mind. And maybe I need Vince Francis to remind me what I picked because then I get nervous that I'm wrong. Because I think I screwed up my Bear River thing. Either way, the Battle of Blue and Orange, Brighton hosting Pineview.
Look, can I just add something real quick here, Dusty? I know we said if I'm a little glad we don't cheer for teams. We say that all the time. We don't cheer for teams, but I was kind of rooting this week for Pineview because Dusty said if Olympus won, we were going to have pie on our face. Like Olympus could come and throw pie on our face. Gratefully, that didn't have to happen. Huh? Yeah,
Nice.
All right. Look, Brighton, Pineview, the matchup this week. To me, Dusty, this is so interesting. That Spanish Fort game for Brighton, thought that they would be able to hold that close, and some late plays for Brighton really helped to push that game along for the Bengals and get out of that round. Pineview, that defense. Look, is this the Pineview team that fourth quarter? Is this kind of feels like that was the Pineview team that I've been waiting for all year, right? They got a couple rushing touchdowns. The defense picked up and had some big turnovers they were able to convert into points. That's what we saw from Pineview last year. Can they play a full 48 minutes of that?
Yeah, 48 minutes,
I don't know. I think that's going to be the question. I picked Brighton in our schedule video. I'm going to hold with the Bengals, but I'll tell you, if Pineview plays like they played that last 12 minutes, Raider Demooney and company, they could be advancing to the semifinal very easy. But I'm going to hold with Brighton here.
Well, this is very interesting because Brighton has been waiting for this, right? Because last year they went down to Orem, and I remember talking with Coach Hill, and Coach Hill saying, "Look, that Brighton team is really good." He's like, "I don't want to play them next year." He's like, "They're going to be that. They'll be that good." And that was the beginning of me thinking, okay, this is the year for Brighton. And you watch what Gabe Curtis has done, and what we knew about Spanish Fork is that they play close. And Spanish Fork gave them all they could handle, but just didn't have enough. I'm sticking with Brighton. I think I took Brighton in the video. Vince Francis can tell me if I'm wrong, because I really want to go Tia's tribe on it. But when you look at Pineview, the offense still struggled. I mean, no, they had touchdowns late, but there was 2 defensive touchdowns in the fourth quarter, open things up. And then Olympus loses a little bit of hope, and then the offense goes and finishes off a couple things. They did not play clean football. They played really, really good. That's my biggest fear. So maybe that's enough to urge Pineview along. This game will be played at 7 p.m. It's the last game that will kick off on Friday night, and be an interesting one. But I'm going to go Brighton. I don't know if I picked Brighton before, but I'm going Brighton. I think Gabe Curtis and crew, they're going to be ready to go. This is the game they've been waiting for. This is the measuring stick they've been looking for. They're going to be ready for this one. I think they played their best game of the year in this one against Pineview. And a lot of that has to do with who they're playing. How about a rematch of a team that got shut out, heading into a team that has aspirations to get back to the semifinals? Salem Hills and Wasatch. It was a 21-0 shellacking that Salem Hills taking out Wasatch in the regular season.
Yeah, and that was, if I recall correctly, wasn't Wasatch just coming off the 49-14 victory over Maple Mountain or something like that? It was pretty one-sided, yeah. And, to go and deal with Salem Hills and get shut down, I was shocked when that score came across. We've seen Jared Elmer this year and his ability to deliver in big moments. That being said, I know that, the overtime against Maple Mountain, second to last game of the year, or last game of the year. It was last game of the year for Salem Hills, having the overtime interceptions. Obviously, he'd love to have those back. If there's going to be a point where you lose a game in overtime and you get that focus back, Week 10 is the right way to do it. And you see what Salem Hills did against Box Elder. I mean, man, not a lot of teams have put up 40-plus on the Bees this year. To me, that looks like that offense really dialed in. This Wasatch team going to have to come with something special. We talked about, they put up 40-plus against Maple Mountain. They've been able to score at will for multiple points over the course of the year this year. But how are they going to try to get past this stingy Salem Hills defense that we've seen lock teams down and did against them? They say it's hard to beat the same team twice, but I think Salem Hills is going to do it. I love me some Wasatch Wasps and the Fighting Coburns, but I think this Salem Hills team looks focused, looks ready to go, and I got the Skyhawks advancing.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I agree with you. It's whole hard to beat a team twice. But here's the deal for Salem Hills. They lost after that game. So they had enough time to kind of refocus, and they weren't just world beaters at that point. Jared Elmer, I think, has himself a night. My question is, can Darius Edwards and that offense, and Kalama and others, can they get things together? They look terrific beginning of that game against Lehigh. Lehigh put up 19 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Not a lot of momentum carried in this game for the Bees. Or for the Wasps, rather. Apologize about that. For the Wasps, I just don't know. I'm going to ride at Salem Hills. They're going to go to their second semifinal in school history. And again, I keep saying this because we have plenty of people get mad at us. Maybe that fuels you enough out in Heber City to go to be ready to take on this team. But right now, I just don't know. Salem Hills looks really, really good. They're playing good football since that loss that they had earlier right after this Wasatch game. That I'm going to ride with Salem Hills as well. Here's what might be the best game in 5A that night. Well, actually, we'll save it. I'm saving it. We're going to pause. I'll come back to that. We'll put a pin in that one. Orem versus Skyline, the reigning 5A champion, Orem Tigers. They're the 2 seed. They've only played 2 games in the last 6 weeks. Skyline, Bolingbroke in offense, coming now down to Orem. Do they have enough firepower to hang with Orem?
Well, I mean, to me, the big question is going to be that offensive line and can they create enough time for Bolingbroke? What we've seen from Braxton this year is he can slice you up through the air. I mean, this young man, the career, we talked about this, I think after week 7 or maybe week 8 became the career passing touchdown record holder in school history at Skyline. And, was still some yards away from breaking the career passing yards. Actually haven't gone and looked whether he has eclipsed that or not. But this offense can put up points for Skyline, and they did so against Bountiful in a high-scoring affair. But, they haven't gone up against a lot of defenses like Orem yet, and Orem can really get after you. We've seen them disrupt a lot of good offenses this year. I expect them, Skips and company, to create a lot of havoc up front. It's all going to rely on that Skyline offensive line, but I just don't know if they have enough up front to give Bolingbroke time in order to allow that offense to get much traction. So I'm going to go with Orem here. I think this offense clicking as well. Faya playing really well. Remember, he missed a couple games early in the season, and no one loves to have 4 games taken out of your pocket, but you know what it does? It gets you healthy. And so for this Orem squad, Dusty, I think – I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if I shared it this week on Deseret News Rewind or not, but I think that there was a stat where they've had winning seasons every year since like 2016, and every year they've gone and won a state championship. Now, I'm not saying they necessarily win a state championship here, but it just tells you like where that program is at and where they've been, their experience. They know what this is like to make a playoff run. I think the offense playing well, the defense playing well, they're healthy. I got the Tigers.
It's really interesting because, you look at this Skyline team, and they were the number 2 team in 5A in the RPI before the RPI went down, and they didn't have that game against Brighton, which would give us a real good feel for who Skyline is. And I think it also gives us a better feel for Brighton as well, but we didn't get it because of COVID. And so when you look at what we've seen from Skyline, I can't see them. Here's what I want to say. They're going to be saying, oh no, right? Jaden Ayu is going to live in the backfield, in my mind, in this ball game. And I got to see a lot of that Bountiful game. Bountiful was hanging in that game, and I know Bountiful, we've seen them a ton this year. When they have their spurts and their goal, and that Bountiful team can be scary. And they hung in there with Skyline for most of that ball game. They had a 3-point game late, and then Skyline put some insurance points on the board. But here's what Orem did. Up 27-21 on Provo. They scored 65 points, folks. It was 27-21 in the third quarter, and they scored 65 points on the night. Orem. I mean, it's the Orem Tigers world in 5A until someone takes it from them. I just don't think that Skyline can get it done on this one. I think Faya and crew have a big, big night offensively. Now to the most unpredictable, and we're going to have to predict it, game of the night, Alta and Maple Mountain. DeAndre Randolph, I beat that drum all night long. DeAndre Randolph is an absolute stud. Can he and crew, Jackson and crew, Ethan Jackson, go to Maple Mountain, take out Nelson, Hall, and Thomas Waite? That's the big question of the night.
It is. I got a fun fact for you, Dusty. You ready for a fun fact?
I love fun facts.
You want to know the fewest points Alta scored in a regular season win this year?
Win?
28. 41.
Oh, my God.
That was the fewest points they scored in a regular season win. Now,
in a win?
In a win. Okay? Now, they only scored 29 against Bonneville. All right? Here's why I mentioned that. You ain't scoring 41 against Maple Mountain. So your defense is going to have to find a way to slow up Maple Mountain. You're going to have to find a way to win a low-scoring affair because I don't think Maple Mountain, this defense, lets you get above 30 on them. Now, I know they just scored 29 against Bountiful and won that game 29-9. This Maple Mountain defense or the offense is a lot better, I think, than Bonneville's. I think they can move the ball much more diverse, much bigger plays. Thomas Waite and company, obviously Nelson, the years he had, best. And this Maple Mountain team, Dusty, they're playing for something. I'm telling you, this senior class, they have had a ton of success coming up through the program. They've got a reason to focus and a reason to play. Maple Mountain, focus, take care of business this week, play for every member of that senior class. Go get yourself a big W. I see Maple Mountain in this state tournament saying, I'm not leaving. I got Maple Mountain.
And I know you've never even seen the movie. What movie? Because I did the beat the drum thing, and you were on it. I'm proud of you. Yeah.
I got you. I got
you. This is interesting because I didn't go with my boys at ALTAHJWK. I didn't go with Alta. I went with Bonneville. I took Maple Mountain picked them to go to their second semifinal in school history. I think I'm going to stick with it. Now, that being said, I hope DeAndre Randolph and Ethan Jackson combine for like 8 touchdowns in this one, and this becomes a 63-56 shootout, because I think plenty of coaches are going to be watching this game. And coaches, if you're not watching this game, what are you watching on Friday night? Maybe BYU Boise. But either way, you're not coaching. So watch this game and this game film, because you're going to see the best connection, one of the best connections, or the best wide receiver with the ball in the air in the state is DeAndre Randolph. Seen them all. No one goes after the ball like number 2 at Alta. Sorry. There's a lot of really good receivers, and maybe there's better ones, but there's no one better with the ball in the air than DeAndre Randolph. All right, I'll get off my soapbox. I'll stick on Maple Mountain because I think the better team is the Golden Eagles. As much as it pains me, once again, to not pick Alta, and Ethan Jackson is going to hit me up on Twitter, I'm sure. If he doesn't, he should. But I'm going to go with Maple Mountain, and it pains me to pick against Alta for the second consecutive week. But maybe that's a good thing for them. All right, let's go to 6A. Last 4 games: Corner Canyon and Bingham. Corner Canyon routed Bingham in a nationally televised game. This is what put Jackson Dart on the map, and now leads into all the Pac-12 offers and everywhere else he's getting offered, TCU and others. Does Bingham have enough to get a second playoff or third playoff win in the 6A state tournament?
Yeah, I really, this Bingham team, Dusty, for me, Coach Peck, his first year, and there's a lot of work. We've talked about it. Wasn't going to, resolve everything or get everything up to speed in year number 1. And so, it's been a great year for Bingham. They're co-region champs again in Region 3. We mentioned on Deseret News Rewind this week, you just penciled them into the quarterfinals, and they made it there again. But they're going up against a really electric offense that Corner Canyon has. The only thing I think that, can Bingham really try to find a way to contain this passing attack? I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but, I think I am wrong, so I won't even go down that path.
I need to correct you. Good. Did himself.
Jackson Dart and company, the way that they're spreading the ball, attacking down the field, we've talked about this receiving core, how talented they are. I just don't know that Bingham quite has the guys to deal with that for a full 48. Even in the regular season matchup, that's a game at halftime. Second half, just didn't quite have the depth to be able to stay with them. I think you probably see this game unfolding similar. I have a multiple possession win for the Chargers.
Well, here's the thing, and I think coaches, Dane, I think you shared this a couple weeks ago, if not last week. If you're going to get Eric Kerr, you better get him in the first shot. But here's the thing. Dave Peck knows Eric Kerr very, very well. Matter of fact, that win on national television on ESPN was the first time Eric Kerr, as the head coach, had ever beaten Dave Peck as a head coach. Because the only other time that that Kerr had gotten a win against Dave Peck was as an assistant in 2007 when Jordan snapped Bingham's winning streak. I know because I was there. And Cody Raymond is now on the Corner Canyon sideline. So either way, I don't think he gets it here either. There's just too much talent on that Corner Canyon side that's been together and been gelling. Watched a lot of that Bingham PG game. I think Bingham's not a game plan. Dave Peck's going to try to keep the ball out of Corner Canyon's hands. They're going to power run it down their throat and dare that defense from Corner Canyon to set an edge and keep an edge. And that's what they're going to try to do. I think it'll be successful for a little bit, just like it was in the first matchup. And over time, Corner Canyon's talent is going to win this thing out. And I think they take care of business at home. And Eric Kerr will go back to the semifinals once again. All right, here's the game that Dane will be at. American Fork and East. This is going to be a good one.
It's going to be a great one, Dusty. And we saw this series play out a little bit last year. And they had a regular season matchup. It was a 14 or 20-point win for American Fork in the regular season. Playoff version came around. And quite frankly, look, I'm just going to throw it out there. If it's not for a Dusty Litster broadcasting jinx, East might win that ball game. But Dusty had to be there, had to predict everything just imploding. And, that's what happens. Coach Matic, I have good news for you this week. Dusty ain't going to be there. I've got him going somewhere else. So can the 2020 version be a little bit different for the East Leopards? It was a 20-point win in the regular season. I think East maybe learned something from that. That being said, I think this AF offense is really potent. And, the thing I think is going to be so fun to watch in this game, East defensively, their defensive front, that defensive line, you look at that game against Bingham, Dusty, I know Bingham won that ball game. But you look at Kufusi. He was breathing down the neck of that Bingham offensive backfield. Roberts got in there a ton. You also had Tun Ufi. I mean, you can do a lot of things with that defensive front. How does AF's offensive line try to handle the pass rush that East is going to put on them? And can they get to Madsen quick enough before he can get some of those throws away to be able to slow down AF? Didn't happen in the regular season. Going to be interesting to see if they have some new defensive packages now they've seen that offense to try to slow them up enough to hang with them in this ball game. I think East is going to find success running the football against that AF defense, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to outscore them. I think this game is closer than the regular season matchup, but I think a lot of options for AF. I'm going to lean with the Cavemen here.
Yeah, so if Eric Mattis doesn't throw the tackle-eligible screen throwback play, then we're all good, because that's what the jinx
that went
was.
for a big game, mind you.
Which it did when I brought it up, because I said the 0-1 Utah BYU game. Yeah. Yeah, it was because it was the Jordan Gross caught that ball against BYU in 0-1. The next play, a new friend of mine, I won't say his name, threw a pick to Gennaro Guilford going the other way, and that's how the question. Anyway, that's what cursed him, just so people knew. This year, it was a 69-49 win for American Fork in the first matchup in the regular season. And you look at this game, and I just don't know what changes. I think East plays a cleaner game, which they did in the second time because it was a 37-27 semifinal game last year. So I think they play cleaner. I just don't know they're going to be able to keep them down. Speaking of the AF offense, you can prove me wrong, but biggest keys for East, if they win this game, if they have 0 turnovers, East wins this game. Can they do that? That's the biggest thing because it has not happened a ton in the playoffs or in certain matchups. So they play clean. I think East can do it because that means the East runs the football and they take care of business. They keep the ball out of Mattis Madsen's hands, but it's a big play team. If they do that, I got them. I just don't know that happens because they're not also forced to turn over for American Fork. So I'm going to take AF, and I'll even go a little – maybe I'll get myself in trouble for doing this. I'll take AF 45-41.
Okay.
I'll even put a score to it. This is a high-scoring affair. So, all right, let's go to the other side of the bracket. Skyridge and Davis. Davis trying to ride all the momentum from the win against Weber to take on Skyridge.
Yeah, and boy, if there's something you learned this week about Davis, it ain't over till it's over. Huh? How about the comeback they put on against Weber in that ball game, scoring 2 touchdowns in the last 305, I guess, minutes of that contest in order to come back and defeat their region rival. This is going to be a little bit of a different challenge, having to take Skyridge, and these two teams have never played before. How about this, Dusty? For all the region matchups that we've seen, Corner Canyon had Westlake, and we saw Davis and Weber, a lot of inter-region play. Skyridge has never played Davis. This is going to be a first meeting between these two programs. It should be kind of fun, huh? This Davis squad has a lot of seniors. A lot of guys have been building up for 2020. This is the year for them to make the push. And you look at the year that David Stewart has had, he can be electric. In the kickoff game, I think he had 2 kickoff returns that were up across the 45-yard line against Weber. He can be that kind of a guy. If you're Skyridge, you play disciplined defensively, and on special teams, you have a great opportunity in this ball game. But if you let Stewart get loose, Davis can hang with them a little bit. I think that Davis defense, better than advertised. I know that they've given up some wins, or they've given up some losses this year with some late drives. This Skyridge offense can be really good, Hillstead and company. But it's a little bit different when you're in the playoffs, and all of a sudden there's that pressure around you. How does the sophomore McKay Hillstead deal with that? I think he's going to be fine. I have Skyridge in this ball game, but if Skyridge doesn't play clean, to your last point, Destiny, about AF, if Skyridge doesn't play clean, Davis can hang in there. They can make some plays late, but I'm going to go with the Falcons to get a win.
Well, here's the thing. Davis can't spot anybody. They cannot spot Skyridge 21 points. You spot them 20 points, you might as well spot them 42 points because you're not coming back from that one. And that's the thing. So McKay Hillstead, here's the other part. What Coach Lehman does, he turns around and says, you know what? My sophomore's got to start a little, we got to get him into this game. Got a stud named Jeter Fenton. We're going to feed Fenton to get started in this ball game and just set up that physical brand of football that Skyridge wants to play. And I think that's kind of one of the differences where Skyridge is going to win this game is overwhelming Davis in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And that's where Davis doesn't have to prove it. Because if you can get Ferguson going, that sets up Stewart on the outside. But they have the opportunity to do that. And that's what Skyridge is going to try to take away. That's a terrific defense. They have a lot of offensive weapons, but it's the physicality that I think wins out for Skyridge. And it'll be interesting to see. We'll have that game for you on Deseret News Rewind as well. Matter of fact, almost all these games we'll have for you on Deseret News Rewind, and including this one. Lone Peak and West. Talking about coming off of some momentum. The law firm of Clarence Bird Butler taking his show on the road down south, taking on Lone Peak.
And Dusty, this is interesting. So West played American Fork earlier this year, and if you look at that score, I think it was 43-19, might have been the final, something like that. That game actually played out a little bit closer than that score indicated. West played with them for like 3 quarters. There was one quarter that got away from the Panthers, ended up being the difference in that contest. I know West took some confidence from that, saying, "Hey, we just played with a top 3 team at the time in American Fork, and yeah, they lost it by multiple possessions, but felt like." For large portions of that contest, they were going head-to-head with American Fork. If it's not for a play here, a play there, that game may be a little bit tighter than it ended up being. Wonder if that gives them some confidence take on Lone Peak and a Region 4 team that's been absolutely dominant this year. Now, that being said, Lone Peak, we saw Lone Peak AF. We had that game back in the regular season. It was a tightly contested battle. Lone Peak got the win. I think this Lone Peak team is certainly stronger in some areas than that American Fork team is. Be interesting to see if West can establish the ground game. And Lone Peak hasn't seen this kind of offense very frequently. Hard to prepare for it, but good thing they have John Henry Daly and Gunnarsson and Max Oborn. They've got a front up there that can be absolutely dominative if this West offensive line isn't keyed into their run blocks. It's going to be interesting, fun to see. You talk about Clarence Bird Butler, a young man that you just got to get the ball in his hands somehow. This West team can be a little more diverse in their offense. They'll spread things out. They can throw the football a little more than you may be accustomed to seeing from some of those flex wing offenses. Do they have something special in the take for Lone? They have 1 or 2. I don't know if they have 40 points worth. I'm going to go with Lone Peak in a win here, but I would not be surprised to see West have some offensive success. But I think Lone Peak wins this one.
I think one of the things you need to know going into this one, West is going to let it all hang out. They're going to go deep into the bucket early in this game. They opened the Roy game, the second round game, with an onside kick, which they recovered and went down and scored. Junior Solovizan trying to find extra possessions where he can early in this game. And they can land 2 punches and find themselves up 2 scores, then things start getting interesting because then you start getting a team trying to get desperate. And that's really what I think Junior's going to try to do in this one is how can you get Lone Peak to feel desperate and start pressing to where West can start finding more, force them to more mistakes. I just don't know you're going to find it because what I love about what Lone Peak does, sometimes you say if you have got 2 quarterbacks, you have none. What I love what Brockbank has done, he said, look, we're going to start with Romney. If it doesn't work, we'll bring in Hey Mooley. And if he's going, we're sticking with it. They're little thin at running back. You take a slot receiver, Eli Cloward, put him running back. And Eli Cloward has been an absolute stud. He's been a find in the second half of the year for Lone Peak. And then you mentioned the man, John Henry Daly, JHD. That young man is an absolute monster and an issue for any team. And there's just so many more guys on the Lone Peak side that can make issues for you than there currently are on the West side. So I say the West doesn't have him because they've got him. Johnny O, that kid is an absolute load to bring down. But there's just so many guys on a Lone Peak team. I think this game's closer than we think. I would say, I'll put another score to it just for fun, right? 35-24 in favor of Lone Peak. I think it's going to be an interesting ball game. It's going to be a little choppy to get started, but it's going to be very, very interesting as well.
Dusty, just as you were going through that, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I don't know if West has played a team that is as diverse on offense as this Lone Peak team is. You talk about Hey Mooley and Romney at the quarterback position. You talk about Cloward out of the backfield. We've seen them run Luke Durfee out of the backfield, Willits as well. They've got so many different guys they can get going. It's hard to scheme against this Lone Peak team. All the studs Junior has put on the defensive side, he's realized, hey, we got to try to slow down these opposing offenses, stay in these ball games. But, man, that Lone Peak offense, it is just versatile across the board.
It's going to be very, very interesting. Well, folks, we are just a week away from the semifinals, and we're going to have all those games, semifinals, championship games, 4A, 5A, 6A for you right here on Deseret News Rewind. If your picks are different than ours, hit us up on Twitter. And not only that, we might have some prizes coming your way and a little bit of incentives to start interacting with us from our good friends at Black Clover as well. But for Vince Francis and Dane Stewart, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us watching Deseret News Rewind, the schedule video on Deseret.com.